Holocaust? The Holocaust was the genocide of European Jews during World War II. The main leader of the Holocaust was a man named Hitler. Hitler blamed Jewish people for Germany's defeat and wanted them to be sent to a camp where they were to be tortured, killed, and used as labor workers. Hitler and the Holocaust had many effects on Jewish people. There are many movies and books written about people's experience during the Holocaust. For example, a book called Night by Elie Wiesel is an interesting read that is about him and his father's experience at the Auschwitz camp. The story begins with a man named Moshe the Beetle befriending Eli and asking him to teach him Kabbalah, but then he disappeared for a couple of months. He had saw a massacre of foreign Jews and was shot in the leg by Germans left to die, and upon his return he tried to warn everyone about the Nazis and the event that took place, but nobody believed him. Months later, the Hungarian government falls into the hands of the fascists, and the next day the German armies occupy Hungary. The Germans soon moved into the site where Eli, his 3 sisters, and parents lived. Once the Germans took over site, families were forced to move into small ghettos, crowded together into narrow streets behind barbed wire fences. One by one, families were gathered onto buses, not knowing where they were going. Eli's family was one of the last families to get on the bus. They were forced to wait in a line on a hot sunny day before they were even able to get on a bus. Once on the bus, they were unaware of where they were going. They soon found out that they were in a camp called Auschwitz. Once at the Auschwitz concentration camp, people were split up where women go on one side and men go on the other side. His mother and sister were separated from him and his father and were sent to different concentration camps. His mother and younger sister were picked to go into the gas chambers, while his 2 other older sisters were picked to do labor work. People split up into those who would be forced into labor and those who would go into the gas chamber. Eli and his father were chosen to be labor workers. The work consisted of carrying materials, building things, and carrying dead bodies into the gas chamber. Soldiers that guarded the camp also abused and tortured Jews. Eli's experienced getting beaten 25 times with a whip after spying on an officer. His father experienced getting beaten by an iron bar for walking too slowly. And many more events like these happened throughout the years of being in the concentration camp. To add on to the torture and the mistreatment they endured, they were also not given proper meals to eat. They were given bread and soup, but were only allowed to eat when the Germans decided to give them food. Some days they didn't even get any food. And even though all this treatment that Eli and his father endured, they were still able to keep fighting and to stay alive. They were able to stay alive long enough to be able to go to another camp called Buchenwald concentration camp. The reason for them moving to the other camp was because of the Germans not wanting the prisoners to fall into enemy hands, the Soviet Union, and tell their story. In order to get to the camp, the prisoners had to run and march a long journey. During the journey, Eli's father unfortunately caught dysentery and died at the Buchenwald concentration camp just months before Eli and the rest of the prisoners were freed. After Eli was free, he looked at himself in the mirror after not seeing himself since before they were taken to the ghetto, and stated that the corpse that gazed back at him was not him and had hollow eyes.